And we are live, I believe. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Um, yeah, I feel like I've done a lot of talking, and so it's like, what else do people really want to know? Ah, joy, 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 joy. Good thing I can professionally talk too much, right? So, this is my live thing. I don't see any comments yet. So, if you do have any questions, if you have things that you want to talk about, feel free to throw them up there or say hi or whatever you want to do. And I will just ramble until we get some actual stuff that is things you want to know. Um, hello, James J. How you doing? Hello there. He is the man, the myth, the legend. My goodness. Who is? Is that me? Am I the person? You are live. So, yeah, I feel like I could probably talk about a whole whack ton of things, but it's nice when I have some direction of what you guys want to talk about or what you would like to know. I've enjoyed doing the panels. I mean, I always enjoy doing panels. It's always great. I always have a hard time deciding about like how much do I share? Am I sharing too much? Am I talking too much? Am I um, consuming too much time? But on the flip side, it's like, you know what? I'm just going to provide the information that I feel is relevant or pertinent and then go from there. Um, okay, since I didn't let you talk, what do you have coming up in the near future? That's a great question. Um, doing panels sounds kinky to me. Really? Does it? I'm not doing panels. I'm doing panels. It's the stress. It's all about the stress, right? That's the important thing. I keep looking over at the comments, so if I'm looking weird down on my screen, that's what I'm doing. Okay, so what I have coming up next, a lot of stuff that I'm excited about. The biggest one for me that has been like a year in the making um, is I think it's coming out on Halloween, I believe, is the plan. There, we're putting it into a series, a serial of recordings where it's gonna. I think it's been going to be released weekly. Industrial Strength Magic by Macronomicon. This is my collaboration with Sound Booth Theater, and so we're going to have the incomparable Annie Ellicott, Justin. Uh, uh, how come I'm really screwing things up? Justin James. I feel like there's Justin Thomas James. That's what I'm missing. The Thomas. Justin Thomas James and Jeff Hayes are going to be voicing some of the characters for me, and I am tickled pink. This series is tailor made for sound booth theater treatment. There are um, so many little nuances and things that come up that are going to be exactly what a little bit of voice effects could really help with. The premise, it's sort of like it reminded me a lot of Sky High. I don't know if you guys remember that superhero show where Kurt Russell and I think was it Goldie Hawn was the mom? I feel like it was, but maybe I'm wrong. Anyways, uh, they they have a high school that all the supers and the villains and stuff all go to, and, yeah, it really reminds me of that at the beginning for sure, um, and, kind of a kid growing up with one parent that's a superhero, another parent that's actually a supervillain, and, um, him waiting to find his powers, get his powers, and then when he figures out what's going on with himself, um, how to navigate coming into that world where everyone's a superhero or a supervillain and navigating that. And there's a lot of people in mech suits, so being able to alter voices so that it sounds like they're in. It wasn't Goldie. Yeah, I feel like that was wrong, but I can't for the life of me think of who it was. Um, uh, you didn't like the ending of that movie? Kelly Preston, thank you. Yeah, there you go. Nice, nice. Um, Goldie Hawn, Kelly Preston is basically the same person, right? Uh, they this one has a lot of people in disguises, in suits, and talking over comms and radios. So we were able to do a little bit of VFX for those. Some of the voices. could use a little bit of VFX treatment as well, so it was fun to play with that stuff a little bit. Challenging for me because I've never done it before, um, and so there was a massive learning curve for me on this one. But I it was one of the other things was how much I loved the book, I loved the series, um, and I really wanted to have it be treated well, so I put a lot of pressure on myself. So, yeah, it was challenging for sure. There he is. There's the one. Steve is a modern day superhero. He makes whole worlds for us to live in while he narrates a book. That's right. I don't really I feel like I don't really make the worlds. I just get to play in them. So I like that. I have a lot of fun getting to play in these worlds that authors create and and try and create a movie in people's minds. That's always my goal. Um, whenever I'm working on a book is I want it to be an immersive experience where regardless of what you're doing, as much as you possibly can, especially if you're driving or something, to get you lost in a world where whatever time is passing by in the real world, whatever mundane task you're trying to accomplish while you're listening to an audiobook, it just becomes that much more enjoyable. That was what it was like for me when I was in construction, uh, and I was listening to audiobooks. Um, I couldn't wait because I would be able to go and do my day, and it wasn't like, "Oh, I'm going to work. Oh, I'm gonna be doing this," or it's like, "I can't wait to get back into this book and just live in that world for, like, 10, 12 hours or whatever." And, and it was like I didn't have to think about all the things that I could do with my hands that were all like those muscle memory stuff that you just do without really thinking. I was able to do and just enjoy the book, and then it made my time pass that much more pleasurably. And, so for me, that was what I wanted when I was narrating, was that I would be able to create a movie in your mind that allowed you to, escape for a little while, to maybe learn something new or about the world or about yourself or about life, and I love that. Um, I'm gonna try and catch up on some of these here. I know they've been popping up, but there's a bunch of them that I feel like I missed. You perform since I only do audiobooks. I feel like I am the book sometimes. When I get to pop into your server, I just get to, get lost in the world you make. I appreciate that. I love that books do that for us all on all for us on all sides. Yeah, I do too. Even, like, when I'm reading, it's amazing to be able to do that. Um, oh, my Discord link. I thought I had one that was like not just like a weird BUUDD etiquette, but that could be, uh it could be lost. Okay, so I think I'm gonna try and check here to make sure that I'm not missing too much, but, yeah, I think that's most of other than just you guys doing rando talkies. Um, uh, so there's that book that I'm working on or we're working on, getting the final touches completed. There's so much to the process when you're adding so many different things, and because I'm learning their way and method of doing them, and I mean, Justin and Jeff and I mean, everybody at Soundbooth has been so gracious to me, when it comes to this kinda stuff, and me trying to learn an entirely new system that has been really challenging. So that's been good, to be able to do that, but also challenging to, um you know what it's like when you feel like you've kinda got things nailed down or you know your process, and then someone says, "Here, do it a completely different way," and then you gotta, like it's that much more frustrating when you're having to relearn something rather than just learning it fresh and new. Um, and, it's, that took a lot of time to kind of figure out and iron out, and I don't think that we're quite there yet, but we're getting there. And, yeah, but it is I gotta listen to, um was it I think it was yesterday I was sent a beta version of the audio, that still needed a couple of tweaks to some of the VFX and stuff, but, I actually got to hear some of the other voices that were being put in there, and yeah, man, I can't wait for you guys to hear it. I hope that you love it as much as I do because it was a lot of fun, definitely a labor of love on that one for sure. Um, the, uh, um, the other stuff that I'm working on, I have one I'm doing right now is, the second book in Fire Touched series, Firebrand, by D.E. Olson, which is, Royal Road. He's Quill on Royal Road, and, uh, and so that's another book that I have coming out here very, like I'm working on, will get done very shortly. And also, at long last, this has been years in the making, literally years in the making. Um, Myself and Cameron Milan are coming back together to do a brand new series. And, they are, this one is called Collect the World. The ebook is actually out now, it's available. Um, Cameron took a long time getting this one out, and, he really wanted to try and make it right, and it took him a lot longer than he was expecting, but he was finally able to send me, the manuscript, and he asked me, he's like, "Can I can I release this before we get the audio going?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, that's no problem." So he put the ebook out right after he sent me the manuscript, and I, of course, wasn't able to fit it into my schedule immediately. Um, but, it's coming up right away in my schedule to do that one, and I'm excited to jump back into a new Cameron Milan book 'cause, yeah, Towers of Heaven was awesome. I had so much fun living in that world, and, I can't wait for this new one. It's gonna be really interesting. So, yeah, that's gonna be a lot of fun, and then I also have there's something a project that I'm working on, um, that I'm really excited about, even though initially I'm not I'm not narrating in it. Um, there is a new series that is gonna be coming out, book 1, the Thornwood book 1. I'm trying to remember the whole title. Um, but it is an Academy type series. I did a series a while back, called the Night World Academy series. It was a lot of fun for me. I've not done a lot of Academy stuff, and it's sort of, YA, more young adultish, um, and, a lot of fun to play in that kind of world where it's sort of Harry Potter-esque, but, there's witches and there's shifters and there's vampires, and they all have different houses, and, they're older. They don't start schooling there until I think they're, like, 18 or something, but, they're learning about their craft, or they're learning about their magic abilities and how they navigate that with being different, species per se, like with the shifters being, able to shift into different animals and, the witches all being able to practice magic, and then the vampires and different types of vampires in this one, which is kind of interesting take on it. Um, so this new series is in that same world, um, I believe much, later in time, like, the events that happened in Night World Academy were, I wanna say about 30 plus years in the past, maybe more, and, and so we're dealing with a new character in this one. The main character is a female, so, she's going to be, voiced by the incredible, Shakira Shute, who just is stellar. Like her ability, her acumen, her vocal talent is just phenomenal. Um, and so I was incredibly pleased that we were able to work together on this project. So the first two books, the first book has already been recorded. It'll be released fairly soon, and then the next book in the series, I think, is going to be completed recording November 10th, and then we have all the editing and everything else to do with that. And then book 3, I will be joining, doing some of the male POV roles. This is a dual narration, not a duet narration, as much fun as that would be. And, um, that's when my character will start to have their own chapters, and I'll be able to join the fray, as it were. And so there's more books in the series coming on top of these 3. But that's where we're kinda starting, and so I think the 3rd book, will probably be coming out, towards the end of the year, possibly in the new year, early in the new year. Um, but it's a lot of fun, this series. It's very reminiscent. If you enjoyed Wednesday, on Netflix, the Addams Family, spinoff, then I'm sure you will enjoy this one because it's not definitely not a carbon copy by any stretch, but it does have that feel and that tone to it a little bit. So it's been a lot of fun to kind of, check out how that's gonna work and get I wasn't able to read all through the first couple of books yet, but, I've been listening to Shakira's, performance on it, and they're just a blast, and she has exactly the right kind of snark and, um, attitude for the main character to be playing in this. I keep wanting to call her Wednesday because it's got I'm very reminiscent of that in this series. So that's been a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it for sure. Okay, while I've been talking about this, I've been missing this. Did you find, hard not hearing the other parts? Um, oh, that with Industrial Sync Magic? Um, it was It was, uh, it was interesting hearing them do their bits without me, like, me not getting to hear their versions. They were able to hear mine, so I think that they were able to tailor make their performances to what I had done, which was really, really good. Um, I've enjoyed definitely hearing their takes on stuff. Sometimes I love it because my interpretation of what I did was, um for like, because I recorded their roles when I recorded the whole book. I recorded their lines, um, and then they take that, listen to that sample, and then they record their version of it. And sometimes I really like, I shouldn't say sometimes, I was taken aback sometimes by the way they went in a different direction about it, but that's what I really love is that it's like, it's not just me, so there's, more takes, more versions, more ideas on how it could be better. I love collaborating, with other narrators. I love collaborating with authors. I'm one of those people that like, there's some narrators that just are like, "Give me the book, don't tell me what to do, I'm just gonna do my thing, and I'll hand it to you when it's ready." And I'm much more of a, um yeah, let's have this be a conversation where we're working on this together. I'm fully capable of doing it on my own if people like, I have lots of Cameron Milan's that way. He's like, "Here's the book, you do whatever you wanna do. You just make your choices," and he trusts me with that. And that's totally fine. But it's also wonderful when I get to chat about the characters or talk about them in more in depth and the author and I get to, like, really go into the deep dive of you know, the below the surface part of the iceberg, that is the world, and kinda discuss that stuff because then it makes it feel that much more real and fleshed out when you're doing that kinda stuff. Um, so yeah, I've known Quill for a long time. They did some editing for me. That's awesome. Jay, okay, so you've obviously got a nice booth set up. What kind of expense would a new narrator incur starting out in the business? I'd ask how much that setup cost, but that would feel rude. Kind of feels like you did already with that question without asking. It's like I'm asking without asking. I don't mind talking about it. Um, so mine's a little bit more unique because this booth here that I'm in, this is where the beauty of having a construction background kind of comes into play because I built it from scratch. And so um, it's kind of hard to equate what it would be. I do have, for example, so what a lot of, I mean, when I first started, I'll say this: when I first started, I um, was in a spare room in my basement. I had, uh, for my son's birthday one year, I had gotten a bunch of 3/4 inch PVC pipe and all of the different connectors like elbows and T's and crosses and what have you, and, cut them all the length and built a structure that he could pull apart, rearrange, redo, or whatever that would essentially create a blanket fort for him. So it would be like a big dome, and then he would drape blankets over it, and that would be his fort, and he could build forts with that. And so I kind of borrowed that for a little bit, and so all I literally had was PVC pipe with blankets, heavy blankets that I draped multiple blankets over myself, and that was my first booth. That was in my basement, and I would have to turn off my heater in the winter, which I live in Canada, and my wife was so happy when I would forget to turn it back on again. She would wake up in the morning, and it would be like 5 degrees in the house Celsius, um, and, we'd be freezing our asses off, and she'd be like, "You didn't turn on the heat when you left your booth, did you?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't," because I would record at night. I was working in construction, and I would get up in the morning, take my boys to school, go to my job site, work there, come home, do all of my invoicing and quoting and stuff, uh, and have supper with my kids, put them to bed, and then I would jump into the booth about 10, 11 o'clock at night, and I would record till midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and then I would get up and do it all over again. And I did that for, I don't know, 6 months, almost 8 months maybe, before I was able to go full time. And so I would turn off the furnace while I was recording, and if I was too tired or forgot or whatever, I wouldn't turn it on again. And then, that early morning wake up was that much harder when it was really, really chilly, and my wife hated me. So I built one booth, and tried to build it on a super budget, so it was incredibly small. The inside space was 3 foot 3 by 3 foot 3, and that was what I sat in to try and do, uh, yeah, to try and record in, and there was no ventilation in it, so I was constantly having to open the door, and uh, and so I redid this booth here in January. I think I finished it up. And, yeah, it's awesome, I love it. For myself, this booth, so what a lot of professional narrators do, or what a lot of them will buy a booth, there's one called a Whisper Room, there's one that's called Studio Bricks. In Canada, I think there's one called a Bear Cave or something like that. And, the equivalent for the size of my booth, if you were to go with Studio Brooks, which is a standard one, is about $15,000 for a booth this size. Um And I actually had my wife works at the, Calgary Public Library downtown, and they have actually a few studios that they've built in there, like proper studios, which is amazing, that is available for the public to use. And then also on top of that, um, they have in the more common areas, a couple of Studio Bricks booths right there that are available to the public to use, but there's people around you. Now, it's a library, so it's not crazy loud, but it's still, like, it is still a public space, and so I was curious to see what the audio quality was like, and so I went into that Studio Bricks booth and listened, and my booth has a better, soundproofing ability. Like, I could hear much, much more going on around me in that booth that was $15,000 than I could in my own booth that I built for myself, so I'm very pleased about that. This one, material costs only, none of the time and effort that I put into it, was about, um, $2,500 Canadian. So that works out to about 595 American, I think. No, that would probably be somewhere around, uh, 1,700 $1,800 US is what I put in for material. So yeah, and then honestly, for your recording equipment, you can go on a super, super budget. You don't have to buy a super expensive microphone to get started. This one here that I have, it's the first one I bought. I love it. It's a great working man's microphone. It's a Rode NT1A, and it cost me about $200. Um, and it's done brilliantly. There's other microphones, like some microphones that are like $3,000, um, but those are designed for professional studios where they have different, like, it's a larger space, a larger room. I know that, like, some narrators have been really excited and they want, like, "I'm gonna get the best microphone because that's gonna be, if I spend a ton of money on it, then that'll help my voice." And they get it into their booth, they plug it in, and it's so sensitive that their microphone is picking up the blood pumping through their body. Like, no word of a lie, they can hear their own blood getting pumped through their body, and it's like, yeah, that's a bit too much. And then depending on the voice that you have, the microphone, if how it's treated or how it's done, it can be a bit too bright. And so your voice sounds a little bit tinny or a little bit too splashy, and so getting a microphone that sounds best for your voice is important. And then more important than the microphone is the space that you're putting it in, because the better quality of microphone you have, it amplifies all of the inefficiencies or inequalities that are in your space. So if your space has a little bit of echo, or if it's a little bit of ambiance, or there's a little bit of a hum or a buzz or whatever, it's going to pick all of that stuff up and actually, excuse me, make you sound worse than a lower quality microphone that wouldn't necessarily pick all those things up. So I honestly think if you were to do like a blanket fort and get like a budget microphone, I do recommend getting an XLR microphone, not a USB necessarily, though I've been hearing that there are some USBs that have gotten a lot better on improving their quality. But I'd say you could probably get a full kit and setup for like 500 bucks to get started in doing narration. So yeah, that's where I would say you could probably start. Where you could the ceiling of how high you could go is limitless. Realistically, you could spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on building a studio and soundproofing the hell out of it and getting all kinds of ridiculous equipment, but you don't need it. Um, uh, do you like duet narration? This is from James. I love your work on Sketch with, Andrea. It felt like you were both in your booth doing it together. Would you ever do a book with another narrator like that again? I keep hearing so many narrators want to do books with you. I agree. Andrea and I did get the rare privilege because, I mean, we just wanted to work together so much, uh, of getting to record, not all of it, but a bunch of that book together. Um live on Discord so we could hear each other, and that really was helpful for us, especially for the other scenes where we weren't able to do it together. Because I knew how she was treating the characters, I knew how she was performing it, so that informed my performance and vice versa, so that we were able to make that sound as good as we could. I've done that a number of times. Um, I actually, um, did an entire book that was duet narration with, Sarah Puckett. Um, Her and I have done a number of books together now, some of them dual narration, but we did one, called Beneath the Stars, where we recorded every single moment of that book together, live on Discord, and, I think that it definitely added to the quality of the book. I think that her and my voice, complement each other very well. I love working with her because she is a consummate professional, and B, just a great narrator, great talent, and wonderful human being. So, um, we had done a dual narration called The Girl Behind the Red Door, one of our very early works, which I'm still a big fan of. I love the series, or that book. It was a standalone, and, romance. And then, Beneath the Stars is another romance where it was book 1 in a series that had a few spin-offs with different side characters that were in our books that ended up telling their own stories. It was really kind of a cool thing. And Sarah and I did book 1 together, and, it did actually really well, and, it was a lot of fun. So I did that one with her together. Uh, I've done some other duet narrations, but I don't think that I've done any that we did live together. Though I will say there's a series. Oh, I love this series. I can't express to you how much I love this series, called Chaos Mages. Um, and that is another duet that I did with, the incomparable Diva Marie. Diva Marie Gregory, and that series was so much fun to do. I like it's 5 books in a series, all of them are done, all of them are available. In fact, I think the first 3 books are have been compiled together so you can get the first 3 books for 1 credit, and, um, Diva was such a blast to do that series with. It's a buddy cop urban fantasy series, that was just I love the character. He's a dick at the beginning. When we were recording actually, when we were recording the series, I was doing my part live, and the author, there was actually it was a co-authorship. Both of them were in there, and Alex Steele, one of the authors said, "Man, I forgot how much of a dick this guy was in the beginning," and I was like, "Right? He is." Um, so yeah, it was kind of a crazy thing. So, anyway, my goodness, 5-minute warning was a while ago. We're at time. I am running over now. Man, those seem to go by so fast. So, yeah, that's one to check out if you like duet narration. I also have a new one coming out really quickly. I'll say under my pseudonym, Chris Graves. That's going to be for Podium Audio. I'm not exactly sure when that one's coming out, but it should be very, very, very soon. Um, and that one is another duet narration that I had a lot of fun with. It was actually a really great story. So, yeah, I'm sorry that I didn't get to all of your questions, Rachel. I see you have some. Richie, try and put them somewhere else, or I'll try and respond to them on Facebook or whatever after the live. But thank you so much for hanging out with me. I appreciate it. Love these. Hope you guys have a great rest of your con and enjoy yourselves. Ciao for now.